We are building these massive digital vaults to store basically our entire lives now.
Oh, yeah, like the cloud storage and everything.
Right, exactly. People are uploading thousands of photos, they're recording audio memoirs, and, well, even experimenting with, like, AI twins to capture their past, just so they're never forgotten.
It's a huge industry.
It is. But looking at the research today, it feels like, well, it's like we're pouring the foundation for this beautiful, elaborate house, and then completely throwing away the blueprints on how we actually want to finish the build.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Because we capture all the memories, right? But almost nobody is asking the woman how she actually wants to leave. I mean, the numbers on this are staggering. 71% of Americans say they would prefer to die at home.
Right.
Yet 69% admit that death is a subject our society just, avoids entirely.
Completely avoids. And that silence, it creates this profound gap between what we want and what actually happens. Everyone seems to have a private preference.
Yeah.
But because we aren't really permitted to talk about it, only 37% of adults have actually documented their wishes.
37%, which means, what, 2/3 of people are just carrying these massive, heavy decisions completely in the dark?
Exactly. Just carrying them alone.
So if you are a golden babe listening to this deep dive today, and by that I mean the women 55 and older, joining us this conversation is specifically for you. Our mission today is to explore this framework. It's called Dying Golden.
Yes.
And it is an end-of-life readiness technique that sits inside the Golden Method mental strength operating system.
And, setting the tone for this is crucial because for anyone listening who feels that, like, instant knot in their stomach, just hearing the topic.
Oh, for sure. The anxiety is real.
Right. Please know this isn't a morbid countdown. We aren't going to sit here and read through some clinical hospital brochure or talk about dying in a cold, detached way.
No, not at all.
This framework is unhurried. It is dignified. It's really about building mental strength. So you are finally asked what you want, and so you have the emotional infrastructure to actually answer.
Because think about the legacy industry right now. Funeral homes, estate planners, even like hospice intake coordinators. They all just hand over a stack of legal forms and say, here, just fill this out.
Yeah, like it's a DMV form or something.
Exactly. They assume a woman already has the emotional readiness to face these decisions, but she usually doesn't. So the paperwork just gets shoved in a drawer. The barrier to planning isn't, a lack of access to a PDF. The barrier is fear.
That's the core issue. The industry demands the legal decision long before the person has the mental strength to make it, and Dying Golden was designed to bridge that exact gap.
So how does it actually do that?
Well, it operates through 4 specific steps, or moves, as they call them, and it takes a person from that initial paralyzing fear to a place of total documented control.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning of that process then. Because before we can make a plan for the end, we have to understand the mechanics of why we avoid making one.
Right.
So move 1 is called the fear naming, and the source material pairs this with 2 specific components of the Golden Method ecosystem. It's the MUD room and the Dying Golden Circle. But let's actually break down what those things are, because they sound intriguing, but I want to know how they function in real life.
Sure. So think of a literal mudroom in a physical house.
Okay.
It's that transitional space at the entryway where you take off your dirty, heavy boots so you don't ruin the carpet in the living room.
Right, you leave the mess at the door.
Exactly. In this framework, the MUD room is a structured psychological space. It's a mental exercise and a container. It is a place where you are fully permitted to track in all your messy, dark, heavy fears about dying.
Wow.
You leave them there so you don't have to constantly carry that dread into the rest of your life.
And we are talking about naming the most raw, uncomfortable fears, right? Like the fear of dying alone, the fear of intractable physical pain.
Yes, all of it.
Or the fear of losing your cognitive abilities, being forgotten, and this is a big one, ending up in a sterile nursing facility that you absolutely would never have chosen for yourself.
Exactly. And then you take those fears from that private MUD room and you bring them into the Dying Golden Circle.
Now, this isn't a worksheet, right?
No, it is a live community gathering of other Golden Babes. It's a space where you state that fear out loud in a room full of peers who do not flinch because, well, they're doing the exact same thing.
Okay, I have to push back here, though. I really need to understand the mechanics of this because my immediate instinct, and probably the instinct of a lot of people listening, is that saying a dark fear out loud is just going to make it more real.
I hear that a lot.
Right. Because if I am terrified of suffocating or of my family abandoning me in a facility, doesn't verbalizing that just invite panic. I mean, how does saying it out loud not send your nervous system into a complete tailspin?
It makes complete logical sense to think that avoidance is protective. I mean, we are actually socially conditioned to believe that if we ignore the monster in the closet, it just won't come out.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. But the psychological sciences tell a very different story here. Back in the 1980s, researchers developed something called terror management theory.
Terror management theory. Okay.
The core premise is that a huge amount of human behavior, like our societal obsession with anti-aging, our super sterile funeral practices, and honestly, our complete silence around dying, it's all just an unconscious strategy to manage our profound underlying fear of mortality.
Oh, wow. So we construct this entire culture of denial just to keep the dread at bay.
We really do.
Mm.
But here's the catch. That avoidance strategy only works right up until you actually have to face the thing you're avoiding.
Right. When it becomes unavoidable.
Yes. When a woman's health begins to decline, or she faces an acute medical crisis, the silence stops protecting her. It just isolates her. And this is where the neuroscience behind Move 1 becomes so critical. Naming the fear triggers a physiological response known as affect labeling.
Affect labeling. So that's like putting a specific word to an abstract feeling.
Yes. Neuroscience studies utilizing brain scans actually show that when you put a feared experience into specific words, it measurably reduces activity in the amygdala.
The amygdala being the brain's threat detection center, right? Like the internal alarm bell that triggers fight or flight.
Spot on. When a fear stays wordless and formless, and it's just trapped in your head, the amygdala treats it as an active, ongoing threat. It keeps your nervous system on high alert indefinitely, which is physically and emotionally exhausting.
I can imagine.
But the moment you name it directly, like saying out loud, "I'm afraid of being in pain," the prefrontal cortex engages. The amygdala literally quiets down.
That is fascinating.
The fear doesn't shrink because you managed it quietly in your head. It shrinks because it leaves your body and enters the room.
So naming the fear is basically the biological prerequisite for making a clear decision. You cannot plan your end-of-life care when your amygdala is screaming.
No, you can't.
You have to turn off the alarm first.
Which fundamentally changes what happens next, because once that physical grip of fear is reduced, you aren't just left empty. That newly opened space gives you the capacity to figure out what you actually want instead of just obsessing over what you don't want.
And that shift in capacity is what drives Move 2, which is the wish declaration.
Yes.
So this step introduces golden conversations and the golden declaration. Again, looking at the mechanics here, these aren't just, casual chats over coffee.
Not at all. Golden conversations represent a structured dialogue process designed to help you figure out your actual preferences. Like, do you want to be at home looking out at your garden? Or do you feel safer in a hospital surrounded by doctors? Who do you actually want sitting next to you?
Right. And once you figure that out through those conversations, you move to the golden declaration, which is the actual vocalization of those choices. It is the exact moment you pivot from private internal thoughts to spoken realities.
Exactly.
Reading through this section of the source material, I was really struck by the dynamic at play for the demographic we're talking to. If you are a woman over 55 listening right now, just think about your trajectory. You have spent a lifetime deciding things for everyone else.
Oh, absolutely.
You probably chose your children's names, you planned the weddings, you organized the holiday dinners, you managed all the household schedules. You have been the primary architect of everyone else's experiences. And Move 2 is about reclaiming the right to decide this one final thing for yourself.
Which is so powerful. Because the alternative is letting your family guess on your behalf when they are in the middle of a crisis.
Which nobody wants.
No. And letting people guess is exactly what leads to the default medical experience, which almost no one actually wants. Let's look at the statistics on hospice care, for example, because they illustrate this perfectly. 53% of Medicare decedents utilize hospice care.
Now, on the surface, that sounds encouraging, right? I mean, over half of people are accessing comfort care.
It does sound good, but the context of that statistic is tragic. The median enrollment in hospice is only 17 days before death.
Wait, really? 17 days?
Yes, 17 days.
That isn't a long-term care plan. That is a last-minute crisis response.
Precisely. It means that for months, sometimes years, the person wasn't actively deciding their care. They were just being swept along by a default medical process, enduring interventions, hospital transfers, aggressive treatments.
Right, just riding the conveyor belt.
Yeah, and only accessing comfort care when all other options were completely exhausted. What Move 2 does the wish declaration is it builds your emotional infrastructure early. You are declaring what you want while you are still fully capable of authoring the experience. You go from being a passive patient to the active director of the play.
I love that. But a spoken wish, no matter how clearly declared, has a major vulnerability. Because knowing what you want in a quiet room doesn't stop an emergency room doctor from following standard protocol.
Exactly.
If you end up in the ICU and you can't speak for yourself, the medical staff doesn't know what you said to your friend last week. They only know what is legally documented.
A spoken wish without a documented plan is incredibly fragile. It can be easily overruled by a well-meaning relative or just completely lost in the chaos of a medical emergency.
And that vulnerability requires us to move from the spoken word to a durable fact. Which brings us to move 3, the written decision. This step utilizes the Dying Golden Technique's own planning page. This is the moment where the emotional readiness we've been building actually meets the physical paperwork. It's the act of formally documenting your advance directive. It's deciding, legally, who has medical power of attorney. It's writing down whether your ashes go in the ocean or if you want to be replanted as a tree.
It takes the emotional wish and turns it into something that is decided instead of defaulted.
I want to dig into the reality of that moment, though. Does a piece of paper really bring peace? I think there is a tendency to view advance directives as just like bureaucratic busy work, something you do for the hospital's legal department, not for your own well-being.
The science strongly refutes that idea, actually. This is the second major pillar of research that Dying Golden rests upon. Extensive studies on advanced care planning consistently prove that when patients have these wishes officially documented ahead of time, both the patient and their family report significantly less anxiety and a much higher sense of control when the end actually arrives.
Okay, let's paint a picture of what that actually looks like in practice. Imagine a family in a hospital hallway. The mother has suffered a catastrophic event. If she hasn't documented anything, that family is thrown into absolute turmoil.
Oh, complete chaos.
One sibling might say she's a fighter, she would want us to try every machine. Another sibling says, no, she hated hospitals, we have to let her go.
The burden of surrogate decision-making is incredibly heavy. When families have to guess, they are basically paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice. And that conflict compounds their grief. Research shows it can actually lead to higher rates of PTSD and depression in surviving family members.
Because they carry the guilt of that decision for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. But when there is a written decision, that entire conflict vanishes. The family doesn't have to carry the guilt of making a choice because they aren't making the choice. You already made it for them. You gave them a roadmap.
That is such a gift.
It is. And for the woman herself, knowing that her wishes are a documented fact provides a profound level of psychological safety. The Golden Method refers to this as building up, not calming down.
Building up, not calming down. I like that.
Yeah, you aren't just trying to artificially soothe yourself with positive affirmations. You're building a concrete structure of decisions that actually holds weight in the real world.
So, okay, you've faced the fear in the MUD room and named it. You've declared your wish out loud. You've written the plan down on the planning page so it's legally undeniable. Mechanically speaking, you have completed the necessary tasks. But humans are not just a list of medical directives to be executed upon. A legal form doesn't address the human need for connection.
No, it doesn't. Which is why the framework doesn't stop at the paperwork. Move 4 is the witness and celebration.
Right.
And this final move pairs back up with the Dying Golden Circle and introduces a concept called Golden Legacy Forever.
So how does Move 4 operate in reality? What does it actually ask the person to do?
Well, Move 4 empowers you to choose, by name, who will mourn you and who will celebrate you. It ensures you are honored on your own terms. It's about intentionally deciding who you want present in those final chapters and what you want them to know. It's an active curation of your own exit.
There is a quote in the source material from Kathy Tarochione. She is the founder of the Golden Life community and the architect behind this entire system.
Yes.
And the context of her writing this is vital because she designed this framework while sitting in a recliner with her oxygen running, intimately aware of her own declining health. She wasn't just theorizing this stuff, she was living it.
She was right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and she wrote, "The opposite of a silent death is not a loud one. It is a witnessed one."
It is a witness one. I mean, that single sentence is the absolute core of this entire movement.
Scientifically speaking, though, why is being witnessed so critical to this process?
It comes down to bereavement research, which is the third scientific pillar here. Studies consistently show that witnessed grief Grief that is processed in a community of peers who have shared a similar experience, it integrates with far fewer psychological complications than private, isolated grief.
So when we suffer alone, the trauma compounds. When we process together, we heal.
Exactly. And what the Golden Method recognizes is that this communal healing works in reverse, too. Planning your own ending inside a circle of witnesses removes the dread of carrying that burden in isolation.
Right.
Historically, the infrastructure of community used to hold this weight. A century ago, neighbors sat with the dying. Families laid their loved ones out in the front parlor of the house. Death was a highly communal witnessed event.
But that infrastructure just disappeared.
It did.
It got outsourced to sterile facilities, hidden behind white privacy curtains in hospitals, managed by professionals instead of communities.
And the Dying Golden Circle is essentially rebuilding that lost social infrastructure. When you name your fear and declare your wish inside that circle, you are surrounded by women who have already said the unsayable. You don't have to be the first one to say it alone. It ensures that a woman is never just a patient file, but a witnessed, celebrated individual from beginning to end.
Wow. I want to pull all of this together for the Golden Babes listening. Because engaging with Dying Golden, moving intentionally through the fear naming, the wish declaration, the written decision, and the witness and celebration, doing this hard work does not mean you are morbid. It does not mean you are giving up or welcoming the end before it's time.
It is the exact opposite of giving up.
It means you are authoring your own ending. You are taking back control. You are doing the one thing this world rarely lets a woman do for herself. You are deciding. You are not fading out quietly. You are making sure your final chapter is written in your own handwriting.
It takes immense mental strength to look at the one thing society tells us to look away from and to organize it on your own terms.
Absolutely. So if this framework resonates with you, if you are tired of carrying these heavy thoughts alone in the dark, there is a space already built for you. We want to extend a warm, completely unpressured invitation to explore the Dying Golden Circle.
Yeah, it's a wonderful space.
It's a live gathering where you can say these true things out loud together. There is no rush, there is no ticking clock. It's just a community designed to ensure you never have to face these questions alone.
And as we wrap up our analysis of this material, there's one final thought I want to leave you with, just to mull over on your own. It reshapes everything we've discussed today about legacy.
Oh, let's hear it.
Well, we opened this deep dive by talking about legacy preservation, right? The digital vaults, the memoirs, the photo albums we leave behind to comfort our families.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to think of our legacy as artifacts, the physical or digital things we leave behind for them to look at.
Right. A record of what was.
But what if your most profound legacy isn't an artifact at all? What if your greatest legacy is the permission you grant?
Permission. Oh, I love that framing.
Yeah. By doing the hard, uncomfortable work of Dying Golden, by facing your fears, organizing your paperwork, and speaking your wishes out loud, you aren't just managing your own exit. You are actively teaching the people who love you how to face their own mortality with courage.
That is so true.
You are breaking a generational cycle of silence. You are showing your children, your friends, your community that the end of a life is something we can talk about, plan for, and face together without terror.
You leave them with the blueprint. By authoring your ending, you give them the courage to author their own when their time comes. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Dying Golden. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.